Have you ever met the connector? Well, he ponders, he helps, he creates, he writes, he speaks. He basically connects people and brings them together. I speak about Paul Solano of PS and All Marketing Group. At psandallmarketinggroup.com, you will receive an assembled group of Paul's contacts and connections that cross into many sectors of life. Please contact Paul Solano at 617-240-4130 or psandallmarketinggroup@gmail.com if you are in the market for a wide array of services. Again, please contact the connector, Paul Solano, at 617-240-4130 or psandallmarketinggroup@gmail.com with any questions. And now, here's Paul Solano, the host of Paul Ponders.
Welcome to Hashtag Paul Ponders. I've really enjoyed bringing you fun, informative, intriguing, and pondering podcasts. Many thanks to Hashtag PodPro Entertainment. Today's collaborating sponsor, Scott Albertson of Hashtag Project142.org, Riverworks Credit Union, NMLS number 410564, and Remax Renaissance Realty of Reading. Thanks for listening, rating, reviewing, and subscribing. Let Hashtag Paul Ponders begin. Greetings, everyone. Hope everyone is doing well today. We're going to get right into this episode, and as you've probably noticed through my website, www.paulponders.com, there's a segment there that has episodes from WATD 95.9 FM. And with me on this episode is the one and only program director and co-host of the South Shore's Morning News with Rob Hakala and Beth Foster. Rob Hakala, welcome.
Paul, thank you so much. It's great to be on your podcast, and thank you for inviting me.
You're quite welcome, my friend. And really, over the past several months, we've been interacting through our dear friend Arthur Boyle, host of The Boiling Point on WATD in the 12:15 Saturday time slot. And Arthur is a lifelong friend. And over the course of past few years that Arthur has been involved, call it like over 25 years with WATD, he has often mentioned you, and really it's been an honor and pleasure working with you in your capacity as program director of WATD.
Well, thank you, Paul.
You're welcome. So you are co-host with Beth Foster, 5 to 9 a.m. time slot, the South Shore's Morning News with Rob Hakala and Beth Foster. So tell us about this show. What is it like doing this show on a daily basis?
Well, it's been a dream of mine, Paul, to have a show like this. I was excited when the show became available. We'll be going into this upcoming November, 2025 will be approximately 25 years of doing this radio show. So it's been a dream of mine to have a program that is all about news and information. And as you said, it starts at 5 a.m. every weekday, and we provide the South Shore with local news and traffic and weather every 10 minutes on the nines, and sports and business, and then conversations and guests and fun. And so it's different every day, Paul. And so it really is a dream for me to have a program like this. And I enjoy it very much, and I'm fortunate to have it.
That is really great. And as I have told you, when I'm up in the Malden, Medford area, the signal for WATD 95.9 FM comes in quite loud and clear. And I've actually been as far north as Andover and Tewksbury, and the radio signal is really quite powerful.
Yes, yeah. We're very lucky to have a great FM signal, and we're based out of Marshfield, and obviously the area we serve is the South Shore, but the signal does get beyond, and it's great to reach areas north of the city, like you said, or even down towards the Cape and out to the Metro West as well. So it's a great FM signal, and as you know, this radio station is one of increasingly fewer and fewer in the country to be owned by an individual. And in this case, it's an individual that created this radio station. It never had existed before. He didn't buy it. He built it right from the ground up in Ed Perry.
Absolutely, and that is the segue I'm going to use. I've had the pleasure of meeting Mr. Ed Perry a couple of times, and I'll tell you, what a fabulous gentleman and a true visionary with what he came up with.
Yeah, no, it is true. And he was able to create this radio station in the late 70s and had a dream to build his own radio station. And that's something that he's been really very good at, as you probably know, is an engineer by trade, in addition to being a businessman, really is his ability to find radio signals. He's been responsible for, in addition to creating this radio station, also through one of his early business careers was finding signals for college radio stations, including the college I went to, Curry College in Milton. They didn't have an FM signal, and he was able to help get that radio station off the ground, in addition to a lot of other colleges and universities. So we as students owe him the a gratitude for allowing us to have that opportunity.
That is really fabulous. Now, I know that the Paul Ponders podcast show on WATD is in fact available on the Odyssey app. So, how does that work with streaming and the actual application?
Yeah. So, as you know, one of the great things about, when you and I grew up, Paul, one of the fun things about, or maybe you did this, I know I did it as a radio geek, I can say, is I grew up listening to radio stations before the internet. And like most of us, so we would have to find the signals. And at night, you could listen to the big AM stations from other cities. And that was really a fun way to find out what was going on in big cities, by listening to the stations in New York and Chicago. And the furthest ones I could get from my house in Hanover, Massachusetts would be Atlanta, Georgia, and even getting a station out from St. Louis, which was quite an achievement to get an AM signal. So when the internet came along, it was great, and it allows you to stream as your show and all of our shows now to anyone, anywhere in the world can listen right from our website. And then, as you mentioned, the apps are great as well. And the Odyssey app is one that we partnered with, and it's similar. I mean, the iHeart is another app made by the big companies. There's the TuneIn app, and the reason that, Paul, I wanted to have it on there, to have the radio station up on a app owned by a different radio company, is if you think about it, in the idea of having a mall or a plaza, one that's very popular, and you want your store in there so that people find it. Now, radio stations can make their own apps, Paul. Certainly, we could have a WATD app, but it would mean only that people that already know about WATD would listen to that, in essence, going to that store. Whereas if your store is in something on the Odyssey app or the iHeart app, people that are going there for other things may find you. And in that case, I thought it would allow us a chance to have people explore the radio station and perhaps attract new listeners. So that was the plan with that.
I see. I see. It's really quite a process, and it's mind-boggling to me. And I'm learning stuff every day on that. Now, some of our listeners in Paul Ponders land are probably saying, "What does WATD stand for?"
Oh, that is a great story. Well, I'll tell it. I mean, I can't tell it as great as Ed Perry can tell it, but I can only wish that I was there back in the day. But in the 1970s, when he started the radio station and eventually was able to finally build a tower, as you can imagine, even in 2025, as it was in 1977, not everyone is in favor of having a tower built in their neighborhood. It's a difficult thing to get a permit for a tower. People will not want to have it near their house, or they'll complain about it interfering with things. And so for Ed, it took a lot of time and effort to get where the tower is today in Marshfield. And so what had happened is eventually he had, applied for different pieces of land, and then the town might buy it up for conservation land, and then he'd have to try again. And then he came close to a couple of other deals, and they failed. And then eventually, I think there was a woman that had land that was directly near the transfer station or the dump back in that day in Marshfield. She had a piece of property that abutted that. And she said, I'd be willing to sell you this land. And Ed said, oh, wow, finally, we can build our radio station. And so he got the land and they had approval to build the tower. And then, as he told it, they all went out and celebrated and had a way large amounts of adult beverages and celebrated. And they said, what are we going to call this radio station? And after celebrating, somebody said, we're at the dump, WATD. And so, as Ed tells the story, that's what they put on the application to the Federal Communications Commission, the FCC, and they put it in the mailbox before they sobered up, and WATD was approved. We're at the dump, and that is the true story, Paul.
That is a great story. I love hearing that story over and over, and it never gets old, quite honestly. Now, with that, okay, you have such a varied menu of programming. So if you want to tell our listeners what range of programming you have on WATD.
Well, thanks, Paul. Yeah, it's great. I mean, and that's something that makes WATD different. It's similar to what they would call a full-service radio station. Probably some of the older listeners remember listening to their AM stations in the past, and they would do a little music, a little news, a little talk, a little sports. And then over the years, as radio got more corporate, they would focus in on one specific piece of music or one type of talk. And so while that works for bigger stations, it really doesn't work as much for a local format because we wanted to target local advertisers is how we support the radio station. And so what Ed Perry has made his mission from the very beginning is to target a variety of different things to service the community. And so, as you said, we do have a variety of shows, and I think it's great, including great talk shows like yours, Paul Ponders. And in addition, we have financial shows. We have shows just about talking birds. We also have an automotive show with John Paul from AAA. And then we have music programs as well. We have Ron Dwyer, as you know, follows you as a legend when it comes to the memories and the older music, which is great. And he knows everything about that. We have a jazz program. We even have an old-time radio drama show, which is great to listen to some of the Jack Benny and some of the old Dragnet and the other radio classics. And then in addition to that, we have political talk and sports talk. And then, of course, our main shows like my morning news show. And then we have some other great local hosts, Audrey Constant and now Taylor Harris in the afternoon. So it really makes for a great lineup, Paul. And most of it, although not all of it, but most of it is still produced locally. And that's the majority of our programming. And as you know, it's 24/7 and a good chunk of it is still live.
That is absolutely fabulous. And also, too, I know years ago I was on Arthur Boyle's show with Coach Bill Wilhelm, the Sports Exchange, and I believe that's probably one of the longest running the sports talk shows on the South Shore or in the area.
Yeah, it really is, Paul. Yeah, that was one of the earlier shows put on with the legendary Coach Bill Wilhelm. And it was on Sundays, and it still is. The time has changed slightly over the years, but it's always been a once-a-week show to highlight high school athletes first. And in addition, of course, talking about the other pro sports teams, but the focus has been on high school sports. And so athletes come in, and parents love to hear their kids on the radio and to highlight, whether it be football or basketball or hockey or softball or whatever it is. And so Bill did it for many years, in addition to being our main play-by-play guy, until he stepped down and retired and turned the reins over to Quinn Kelly, who's a very young guy that's really following in Bill's footsteps. And now every year we have the Bill Wilhelm Award that we give out to a football player in Bill's honor. And it's been really a great tradition, as you said, that started with Bill Wilhelm and continues today with Quinn Kelly.
Without a doubt. And wherever is right next door to Malden. As you know, I visited Quinn Kelly and the broadcast crew over at Everett High School for the Everett Brockton game.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it is great. It's so fun to see a lot of these great matchups, and it's been so fun, and I really like the moments and, going to all the local schools and some of the great rivalries, and then in addition, it's so fun to have over the years, as you know, they had, football at Fenway. A couple of years, it was fun to do a couple of those games, and then, of course, when the, teams go to the Super Bowl at Gillette, and then, soon we're gonna be having basketball up at the Songus Arena in Lowell, right? And then finally, the hockey at the Garden. So, it's been a lot of fun, and it's just a great program that continues, to try to, as you know, that Quinn does, is try to get to as many schools as possible to give as many kids a chance to have their games heard.
That's fabulous. And I guess with the resurgence, if you will, of the Brockton Rocks, I'm sure that WATD is going to be there front and center.
Yeah, I certainly hope so. I know Quinn went to that, press conference, just recently, and that's really exciting news for the city of Brockton. I do like that, at Campanelli Stadium, and it's a fun place to go and see a game, and I'm glad that they're able to have that resurgence, as you said. It's really bringing a lot of excitement and energy back.
Without a doubt, without a doubt. So what does Rob Hakala do in his spare time?
Oh, what do I do when I'm not working, at the radio station? Yeah, I spend most of my time doing radio, which I do love, but other than that, I enjoy spending time, just relaxing. I would like to get, I guess, as far as hobbies, I always enjoy, camping up in the White Mountains or spending time at the beach. So those are some of my great memories, and then, spending time with my niece and nephew, and, it's great. I have a lot of family in this, area, Paul, since this is where I grew up, and I wanted to stay around here. So those are the things I really enjoy is, spending time going to some of their things and watching their games, and that's the great advantage of working the early shift is you can get out to some of these things.
That's true. But I have heard on from listening to your show that you've become quite the ballroom dancer.
Well, I did, take a few lessons to help out with a charity event several years ago, which was, fun to do. I had never done any dancing, lessons, and so I did get to learn a routine and to perform a dance for a charity, which was a great thing and a great opportunity and certainly out of my comfort zone, but, it was a lot of fun, Paul. I didn't take home any first or second place trophies, but I did have a good time, and now they've asked me to, host some of the new, charity dancing events, so I'll be doing that, in March, later March of this year.
That's great. And you do the MC work and you do auctioneering. You do it all in the South Shore and beyond.
Yeah, it's fun to really help out with these great organizations, as you know. Helping out charities is a great thing, and I do enjoy, doing that, and that's kind of another extension of what we do anyways, as a radio station. It's just about outreach and caring about the community.
Absolutely. And I know from having the show on WATD at 12:15 on Saturdays, the sense of community is really just so prevalent and so outstanding. And I joke about traveling down from the North Shore, coming over the bridge, and just going in studio, working with Tim McKenney as the engineer, just like Techie Talonzo behind the glass for Paul Ponder's podcast. Tim McKenney does an awesome job. And, really, it's just a great experience being involved with a great radio station. I really feel like I am part of the WATD family, and I thank you for welcoming me so well.
Well, it's great to have you, Paul, as part of the, family and the team, and it's been great to have your passion and positivity and excitement as part of the team. But you're so right about it being a family, and you certainly can tell from your time there. You've gotten to know Arthur and Bill Wilhelm, and even Tim McKenney and Ron Dwyer. Is you'll notice that most people, once they're there, tend to stay there for a long time. All these employees have been there for decades, including even Tim. So it is a special place, and it really is. It's been, as I said, a dream of mine. And it's great to have you aboard, Paul.
Well, thank you, and I really appreciate that. So, Rob, as we wind down and all, how could our listeners contact you with any news tips, questions about getting into the world of news broadcasting?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, Paul, anybody can reach out right through my email is on the WATD website at 959watd.com. I hope you'll click out the South Shores Morning News page, and you can find my information there if you want to learn more about the show, or if anybody is interested in sharing a story or maybe knows a good guest. And also for anybody listening to this program that is interested in learning about radio, or perhaps has a child or a grandchild that wants to go into broadcasting, we just picked up a great intern from Massasoit. So that's always an opportunity, Paul. As you know, we also open our doors to students to learn about broadcasting. So I'd be happy if anybody wants to reach out about any topic.
That is fabulous. Well, Rob, I thank you for being on this episode. And again, for our listeners, tune in between 5 and 9 a.m. South Shores Morning News with Rob Hakala and Beth Foster. Rob, I want to thank you again for being with us.
Thank you, Paul, for having me on the podcast. It's been a pleasure.
And it certainly has. #Indeed.
I trust that you have enjoyed #Paul Ponders. Again, my name is Paul Solano of PS&All Marketing Group, and I may be reached via email at paul@paulponders.com to do some more pondering. Many thanks to my longtime collaborative friend and associate, Chalonzo Amos of Pod Pro Entertainment, in bringing you our fun, exciting, informative podcasts. You rock, Techie Chalonzo. With PS&All Marketing Group, I created a side gig to connect you and get things done. Please do not hesitate to reach out to me at paul@paulponders.com with any questions. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Paul Ponders. Follow us on Twitter at Paul Ponders Pod. Follow us on Instagram at Paul Ponders Podcast. Thank you again for listening to #Paul Ponders, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, our website, paulponders.com, or wherever you stream your podcasts. Subscribe, stream, rate, and review our shows. Your ratings and reviews help our show reach new audiences. Produced by Pod Pro Entertainment, #Paul Ponders lives within a network of podcasts located at podproentertainment.com. #the new radio. Until we meet again, my friend, stay well. #Indeed.